and welcome to Widnes Rugby Chat, episode number 54 with me, James Gordon. I hope you all had a great Christmas and a Happy New Year to everyone listening. The 2022 Rugby League season is just around the corner, and with that in mind, I caught up with Simon Finnigan to chat about how the off-season has gone, how pre-season has gone, and what he's hoping to achieve in 2022. Thanks as always to the sponsors of the podcast. That's PD Law Solicitors, Arnold, Gorse Financial Management, Parklands FC and Whistle. We'll jump straight into this interview now with Simon. Of course, Widnes in action against London Broncos to start the Betfred Championship season. That's on Sunday, January 30th. If you're making the trip, hopefully I'll see you there. But for now, it's over to Simon. So, Simon, 2022 season, just a couple of weeks away. What's your current position on things? How happy are you with the way things are looking ahead of the season?
Yeah, I mean, we've been in a while. I think we started late October. So we've had a fairly long pre-season, more of an Australian type pre-season where, traditionally they have nearly 4 months. I think it is. We haven't had quite that long, but we've had certainly longer than usual English pre-season, which we all spoke about that we thought we needed to be back in a little bit earlier, especially with the ongoing, issues around COVID. We've been lucky because we haven't had them issues, but that's worked in our favour as well because we've certainly got a lot of volume in, so we're in a decent place.
Do you feel a lot better prepared than last season?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the amount of time we've had on the field and the amount of volume that we've got through is it's huge amount. We're probably double what we got through last year. So we're certainly in a better place, and it's felt a lot more like a pre-season of previous years, and the fact that we've had a little bit longer has helped us as well.
Has Phil or anyone at the club sort of said to you about the stability now? I think this is the first off-season in 4 or 5 years where Widnes haven't changed the coach, which can only be obviously good for the club.
I've, to be honest, I didn't know that stat. I've not even. So that tells you the answer to that. No, we've not spoke about that around that stability and the changes. But I think a lot of the stuff throughout last season and when I first come in, we spoke about it, and I think it's pretty common knowledge about where the club was at and finally being in a really solid place off the field, which that was throughout last season. Forget the results. I don't want to say forget the results on the field, but certainly off the field, the club was moving in the right direction in terms of stability, and we continue that now. So yeah, I didn't know that stat that they haven't changed the coach in the off season for the first time in a few years. So yeah, but again, that adds to the stability in the staff, not just myself. Ryan, the assistant, he's with us again. His role's changed. Certainly, some of the off-field staff are still here, which helps. That we've got physio, and then we've added Bob as well. So having stability throughout the club in all areas helps.
How much of a difference do you think having Bob will have on the team?
Oh, it's had an impact already. He's good at his job. It was an area that we needed to get right for this current season because it's an important part of what you do as a club. He's coming into the gym. He clearly knows that side of things. I've worked with him before on that as well with Toronto, so I knew that would be the case, and he demands respect as well because of what he's done. But not just Bob, Ryan, his role and what he's really good at. He's putting all this together as well, the off-field performance and things like that. So that's how we put all of it together. Is it's come together nicely, and again that goes around the stability of the people that off the field make it work as well.
I mean, I don't envisage you'll get into any problems with hookers this season as you did last season. But I mean, would you have persuaded Bob to play maybe if you were sure? If last year happened again, would you persuade Bob to maybe play the odd game?
Well, I'm not thinking that it will happen again. As good as a player Bob has been throughout his career, and again, I've had the luxury of playing with him and also coaching him. I don't want to sound like I'm disrespecting him, but we hopefully won't be looking at using him this year. We've recruited well in that department, and as good as Bob has been, his time has been, so he can just stick with the tracksuits and the polos for the time being.
You mentioned, obviously, you worked with Bob at Toronto and noticed you did a bit of work with Salford because, obviously, you know Paul and Kurt Haggerty over there. You had a training match or something with them recently. Do you expect there to be a bit of a relationship between the two clubs as part of that, or?
Not in terms of players going back into. It's just, I've got a good relationship with Paul and Kurt from my time, coaching with them, and it's something we've always tried to do is run a body in front. We did one with Warrington last year, and it's just something we've always tried to do. And of course, because I know them, and Paul's the same, that I think they've got another one coming up or they may have just had one again. So the clubs try and get these games in, because squads, it's very hard to run 13v13 these days against each other, because of in pre-season of injuries and things like that. So having that opportunity to run like that is brilliant. So we got a fair bit out of it, to be honest, and I think they did as well.
Would you like to have had more friendlies, or I suppose is it difficult at the moment to persuade the Super League teams to play because of the COVID situation?
I think there's a lot of different reasons. It's hard. Everyone's trying to scramble around for friendlies against each other. So and dual reg dictates a lot of who plays who, and then the League One season, when that starts, hasn't been helpful to try and run friendlies and things like that, because I don't think their season starts till the end of March. And we've tried to run some body in front against some League One clubs, and some of them only started training mid-December as well. So, and then you add to that, our season starts at the beginning of January. It's difficult to try and fit them in. I know some clubs, so people will argue back and say, well, Bradford and these are playing through every weekend, playing 3 or 4 friendlies, but I'm not sure that's the right way to go either. I think we put more emphasis on starting a little bit early and getting some volume in our legs and running wise, and I think one friendly should be enough for us. So we're pretty happy where we're at in terms of that. When
we last spoke, you were talking about maybe wanting 27-28 to run with 27-28 this year. You're still a bit short of that. Is there anything in the pipeline?
We've got, I think at the moment we're on 26. We've still got a young Deck Baker who trains with us as well. He hasn't been at the moment, but he will train with us, which will take us to 27. But we're always looking as well. So we're happy with the 26 we've got. We've got, I think, a really good 26 with no players in that amongst that where you'd say a project. So, ideally you always want a bigger squad, but then also there's no point just having a bigger squad with loads of numbers that aren't going to perform on a weekend and actually challenge everyone, which I think you look at our 26, it's a pretty solid 26.
Do you see any prospects of any loans or anything like that from Super League? I know obviously there was a little bit of that with Warrington last year, and maybe that relationship soured a little bit at some point. Do you see any of that, or again, is that a COVID?
There'll be opportunities along the way, whether it's Warrington or other clubs that will look at the loan market. But again, with reserves returning, and I'm not entirely sure when that season is going to kick off, and the amount of dual reg, which is another subject that is going around with different clubs and things like that, and partnerships, and there'll be fallout somewhere. There always is. It's just got to sort itself out once the season gets going. Obviously, the Super League clubs like to keep hold of most of their players until they get going. Once they get through the friendlies, there's a little bit more of an idea of where their squads are at. But then the reserves back again is difficult. So, but as history tells me, they're always, once the season gets up and running, we start to figure out where we're at.
Would you like to have added another prop maybe to what you've got?
Possibly, but again, there's props out there, but they're not right for us. So we've made a really conscious effort about our recruitment this year. We did it early. We went for the players we thought we needed, and we're not just going to jump at anyone that's on the market, just add another middle to our squad so it gets it to 27 or 28. I think we've got a good blend across the squad. You always look at more middles. That's just obvious because that's the position you need the most of. But I think we've got 10, I think between 10 and 12 that can play that position. So at the moment, it's not something that we need to jump at just to throw an extra number on to take us up to that ideal number, whatever that is.
I know coaches, and all coaches say the same, that squad numbers don't matter and all that. But, obviously you giving Shane number 10 suggests that you see most of his games being in the front row. Yeah,
they don't mean a lot. I understand the concept of squad numbers. I think they create more hassle than good, to be fair, but that's my own opinion. So, yeah, but Shane this year will probably play more in the middle. You can clearly see with our squad that we've got three back rollers that are there that are out. Well, again, Ollie Davis can play in the middle, but you'd regard them as three out and out back rollers, Lawton and Wildy and Ollie Davis. And then Shane's done a really good job throughout the back end of last season in the middle, but he's still a very good back roll. But for this stage and where we're at the moment, we see his best value to the team in the middle, hence why he's got the number 8.
Do you see, obviously with Kenny and Aaron Brown as well, like, I suppose from a coaching point of view, I guess you seeing a few headaches, are you, in your team selection if everyone's fit?
Yeah, and that's what we wanted. We didn't have that last year. I don't think. I mean, that's pretty clear to see. We didn't have good enough headaches throughout the year. We didn't have enough players on the sideline putting pressure on the ones that are in the team. So that's what we want as a coach. Obviously, it's going to be difficult to get the 13 and the 17. There's going to be some disappointed people, but that creates what we want, because they'd be knocking on the door, and our training has dictated that as well. How we train, you could tell that they know there's good people in their position that could take it, and it's not nailed on who's going to play where as of yet. So I think the intensity of our training is certainly up because of that.
Obviously, we touched on the hooker situation before. Do you expect to be able to run with a rotate? Are you planning on running with rotation hooker on the bench every week? Obviously, you've got, I guess, Marty Fozzard will be first choice, but you've got Deck and both. You've got Deck Gregory and Lewis Hume to sit on the bench. Is that how you expect to go?
Oh, it will change. There'll be games where we probably feel that we might need an extra 9 on the bench. There'll be games that we might not feel that we will go with an extra 9. It'll like week to week that'll play, and also their form will dictate that. And we've got 3 back rollers as well, so we might carry a back roller on the bench. Which again, I've got myself and the staff. We've got some decisions that we can make around the 17, and also adjustments around what can suit what opposition we play and how the form dictates that. So again, I haven't had that luxury, so to speak, until this season, which I'm really happy about.
The first league games away at London, who are obviously in a little bit of a transition, but does that make it difficult for you? Because there's not a great deal you're not going to know a great deal about them probably until the day that the game is, really.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of knowing how they'll play and their structures, it's going to be probably focused on ourselves, because, as you say, I don't think they're going to play a friendly till the start of the season. I know their one with Scholars got called off, so I would imagine they can't reschedule a different one in. So, yeah, but the transition is hard to tell, because sometimes you drop down, it might suit them as a club to transition down to part-time, and they've made quite a few signings of players that have played part-time before. So, again, it's a bit of the unknown and how they're training and how they've adapted to it. But they've moved to a new ground as well, so I'm sure they're going to be up for that first game. And I see on social media and different things, they're really pushing it. I think it's a good fixture for them to have first up, Widnes up, going to their place. So I'm sure they'll be ready. It might be a dip. They might have a dip later on in the season once they get going, but I'm sure they'll start fast.
Are you expecting to have a fully fit squad for that match, or will you be missing? Are you missing any?
We'll probably be missing a couple. I don't know. There's a few that'll be touch and go that we need to get some training in. A couple will miss this weekend, but there's probably a couple that will definitely miss.
Is that? I think Steve Tyre had surgery or something like that. Was he one of them?
Yeah, Steve Tyre had surgery, so he's unlikely to feature, and probably Levy, but the rest will be touch and go if they get to that game. Again, they need to get some volume in their legs, because the boys have put a fair bit of running into their legs in pre-season, and the ones that have missed that will need to get themselves up to speed as well, because the boys are pretty fit at the moment.
How has Levy been? Because he was obviously injured, wasn't he, when he came? How long has he been in training?
He come in before the boys come back in. He volunteered himself to come in for extra training with our physio, so he got a jump on that, and so his attitude in terms of trying to get fit has been good. So he's not that far away, but he's still got some key areas that he's got to push through before he can, jump back in with the team. He started doing little bits with the team, but he's still got some little areas that he needs to fix up on before we can throw him fully in.
Have you spoken to? Have you had any sit downs with the squad? Well, obviously you've got quite a few from last season, and talked about last season and how you want to do things different, or maybe what went wrong and what you need to change. Has anything like that happened?
Yeah, we did that almost immediately with the current squad, the current squad of the 2021 squad that was staying with us, and we went through what we thought we did well, what we thought we did wrong, what we can get better at. We did that with everyone, every individual. We did that with the staff, and then as we come back in, we also had them chats with the new group, so to speak, the 2022 group, and we've outlined some areas that we need to be better at, and things that we did good at, and we've implemented them from the start of pre-season. So yeah, that was ongoing as soon as we got away from the Swinton game, and we've put some things in place that we think will help us, and the lads have bought into it, and they've been really good at that as well. So yeah, we did that immediately. That's how you have to do things if we want to get better, and we have to be open and honest about what we did wrong, which I'm all for as well, because we all want to be better. Last season wasn't particularly good in terms of on-field stuff, and we need to be better certainly this year.
I suppose one of the positives coming out the back end of the season was obviously Ollie Brooks on the wing, and I know we've already touched on the squad numbers, but it's a pretty big call to give him the number 2 shirt, I guess. Yeah, and I think that how he applied himself throughout the year, which a lot of people didn't see. His terms, how he trained, and his effort and application that he did throughout the year was unbelievable. And he just didn't get a chance. And then when he did, he certainly improved week to week. And again, he's improved in pre-season. So we see him that he's got a big part to play this year. We've got Brad as well that we've brought in from Workington, who again, he's a young kid who's still learning the game. And the improvement he's shown from the week 1 in pre-season has been immense. So we think as a group of wingers, we've got there's 3 of them that are going to, fight for that 2 spots. But at the moment, yeah, he's got the squad number, as you say, the starting thing, but that doesn't mean that he's going to start the first game. They're all going to have to work hard, and they are doing that, and they're pushing each other on. Do you feel like you might go under the radar a little bit this season? Obviously, it feels like you obviously got the recruitment done fairly early. You've got a fairly balanced squad. You're just sort of quietly ticking over and getting things done. Do you think that's of benefit to where Widnes are at the moment? I'm not sure we'll go under the radar. I don't think this club's allowed to. I think I know everyone's talking about every other, all the other signings that all these clubs have made, and no one's really talking about our club, which in terms of signings and things like that. But that's fine by us as well, because we knew what we needed to be better at coming into pre-season. We knew what we would help, come round 1, and we're just working ourselves out that way. The best thing about us this year is come and watch us play. I think that's the main message. Whether we're under the radar or not, or no one really fancies us, I think come and watch us play, and you can make your own mind up, because we know what we need to do to achieve what we want to achieve this year. Obviously, we won't be saying anything where we're going to go on things like that, whether we're under radar or not. But yeah, it'd be good to come and watch us is my thing, because I'm seeing something different. Do you look at last season, obviously generally people were disappointed with last season, but then if you look at certain games in isolation, obviously beat Bradford twice, who finished up there, obviously lost to Halifax dead late on, who were up there and beat them at home. Obviously the cup semi-final against Featherstone, which could have gone the other way as well. And that was when they were in the midst of what was a disappointing season. I suppose that gives you encouragement thinking, well, if we get it right this season, well, actually we've already proved that we can beat them sort of teams. Yeah, there's reasons as well that we did well in them games, and the reasons also that are inconsistencies as well. Like in-house, we know why, and we know that we've gone away to trying to fix certain things like that. It's not just about personnel; it's about across the board how we can be better, myself included. So you look at Batley's a really good example. They get it right more often than they get it wrong, and they finish 3rd or 4th it was, and put on a really good season. So consistency in everything normally gets you higher up the table. So, it's not just about each weekend. If you're consistent more than you the other way, you're going to have a pretty good year. And I don't think the championship, again, is there's some full-time teams in there that are clearly, everyone's going to say are going to fight for at the end, which rightly so with the money they spend and the full-time thing. But there's not a lot of difference between top and bottom in the championship, and Batley's and these teams prove that. Whitehaven, they were consistent throughout the year. They had a consistent team as well throughout the year, or 19. They didn't use many players, and it's no surprise they end up closer to the top than the bottom. Yeah, and just a last word on Danny Craven. Obviously, as his testimonial year this year, I guess he would have been just about coming through when you were playing for Widnes in Championship. Just tell us a little bit about what he was like when you played alongside him and what he's like to coach.
He was a young kid then. It's hard for me to go back a long time. It's hard, all these memories, but he was a young kid that I knew a lot about. There was a lot of talk around there's a group of them: Danny Craven, Tom Gilmore, Jack Owens. These kids that when I first come here, that we've got some good kids here. You need to watch out for them, and that group have gone on. But Danny, as he is now, he's a fantastic player. I think he's been tremendous for this club. On the field, he's developed into a really good halfback. What he's had to go through off the field in terms of where this club's been at, and he's stuck by it and been here, shows the character and the love he's got for this club. But the one thing a lot of people don't recognise with Danny, he's an unbelievable defender for a halfback. He's probably as good as I've seen at any level, and that includes one-on-one defence and structurally. There's not many, and he never gets credit for it. If I've watched and played with many halfbacks, and I've not seen many better than him, to be honest. Defensively, he's an incredible defender. And again, it's not something that gets talked about too often for him. It's his 40-20s. It's his running, his try assist. But defensively, as a halfback, he's a terrific player.
Well, and of course, Matty Smith should his defensive game should be much better this season, having had a season out in the pack.
Yeah, no, you start to appreciate every position. He's played the game a long time, and he's played a lot of that his career, telling them people in the middle what to do. Now he's been in that middle and probably suffered and understood sometimes why they don't do what they're told. So you always learn lessons. It doesn't matter how old you are and what you've been through and what you've won. But I'm sure the season he spent last year in the middle, it's taught him a hell of a lot about the game as well. And he could probably appreciate what the amount of times he screened at them big fellas in the middle. Now he understands that it's not always about what they're not doing wrong. So, but he's been good again. I'm looking forward to how he goes this year.
And just a final one, obviously, the season started last season with no fans. This season, assuming there's no disasters in the next few weeks, he's going to start with fans. How much are you and the team looking forward to that first home game?
Oh, it's massive. I mean, the Bradford game, the Swinton game, it just felt like the old Widnes. And I know we 100% we play a part in that, because what we produce on the field dictates to how they are. But I thought the Bradford game and the Swinton game, that they were unreal, and that's what we can't wait for. But again, we've got to play our part in that. And like I said, come out and watch us, and that they'll make their own mind up, because they're a knowledgeable bunch, and they get behind the team when they see what we're producing is effort and something worthwhile watching. But my message to them would be, come and watch us and make your own mind up, because you can hear enough of me talking and players talking, but just come and watch, make your own mind up, and then you be the own judge.
Brilliant.